On this day, 1962, it was a cold winter's morning, and two little toddlers put on their winter coats to go and play outside their Vineland, New Jersey home. Sadly, one of those little toddlers disappeared, and what happened to him on that cold winter's day has never been revealed. This is the case of William Ebenezer Jones Jr. William, known as Billy to everyone, lived with his parents and two siblings on Taylor Avenue in Vineland, New Jersey. He was 3 years old, he was a jolly little chap, and a man after my own heart. He loved dogs. The family had a basset hound called Baby Cakes and a collie. He was particularly close to the basset hound because she would just follow him everywhere. They were best friends. So on this day, December 17th, 1962, 3-year-old Billy and his 2-year-old sister Jill wanted to go and play behind the house with the dogs. Their dad was at work and the mother, Evelyn, was inside taking care of the baby of the family, 1-year-old Bart. The kids were outside having fun, and Evelyn would, quite often look out of the window to make sure that they were there, to make sure that they were okay. And up to lunchtime, nothing was unusual about this day. Evelyn, early in the morning, had ran some errands with the kids. Billy got a haircut. Returning home, that's when Billy and Jill went out to play. William was wearing a blue-grey snowsuit, a matching hat and tan high tops with yellow laces. Around 11:45, unbeknownst to Evelyn at the time, a neighbour spotted Billy on his own and suggested that he go back home. But obviously he didn't. The first Evelyn knew that anything was wrong was at 1 p.m. She was attending to baby Bart and there was a knock at the door. She opened it and there was little Jill standing in the doorway with a plastic plant. Evelyn said, "Where's Billy?" And little Jill, only 2 years old, said that Billy had given her this plant. So Evelyn pressed her and said, "Look, where's Billy?" She looked outside, couldn't see him. And Jill said, "The Bogeyman took him." Evelyn panicked and she frantically ran up and down the street. She was banging on neighbours' doors. She was just searching everywhere. Neighbours came out to help her. During all of this melee, an unknown man approached Evelyn, stopped in a green car and said, "Are you Mrs. Jones?" Evelyn didn't reply. She was just in an absolute panic. Now, who that guy was he connected? I don't know, but it's a bit strange. She continued to search along with the neighbours. Billy was just nowhere to be seen. But neither was Baby Cakes, the basset hound. Evelyn was maybe a little bit comforted by the fact that Billy was with Baby Cakes. Not that basset hounds are great protection dogs, but kind of thought, well, maybe they've just wandered off a little bit too far. And yet still, she was frantic. And then Baby Cakes comes waddling along with her little legs, and she was soaking wet. So that created even more of a furore, because if Baby Cakes was soaking wet, what if Billy had fallen into a body of water and Baby Cakes had tried to rescue him? Or what if Baby Cakes had fallen in the water and Billy tried to rescue her? And then Billy couldn't get out. So at that point, they had to call the police. A massive search ensued. Hundreds of police officers, firefighters, National Guard troops came along, and a whole bunch of volunteers. Everything thrown at the search for little Billy. And there was nothing. They trawled through the area on foot, by boat and in air. Every waterway within a walkable distance was searched because of Baby Cakes coming home soaking wet. They searched through woods, swampland. It was just like Billy had fallen off the face of the earth. Navy helicopters were brought in to search the area. Bloodhounds all the way from Philadelphia were shipped in. But although they did pick up Billy's scent, because he'd been playing outside, right? So they were obviously going to pick up his scent, but they lost it. There was no sign, absolutely no sign of Billy anywhere. So this created fear amongst the community of Vineland. You know, normally this was a quiet place. What on earth had happened? You know, Evelyn just couldn't get out of her head what Jill said, that the Bogeyman had taken little Billy. Initially, the cops believed that the little plastic plant that Jill had brought home was an important detail. Maybe Jill had been given that by the Bogeyman in exchange for Billy or something, you know, bizarre like that. There'd been reports of 2 women selling these things in the area, so, you know, these 2 women, whoever they were potential persons of interest. However, authorities, after some investigation, concluded the kids had found this little plant in the neighbour's trash. It had been passed around various local kids for days. So then, with the trash being mentioned, and more importantly than the little plastic plant, the fact that the trash was picked up that afternoon between 1:30 and 2 p.m. So it was theorised that maybe little Billy had fallen into a trash can and he'd been taken to a landfill. So they questioned the trash guys and they said, look, they would have noticed if a kid was in a trash bin. You know, it was the old days when picked bins up and threw them in. They would have seen. But still, there was a search of the landfill and still nothing. Absolutely nothing. So as the days turned into weeks, it turned into months, the family became more and more desperate for answers and they turned to various psychics. Never a great idea. I'm sorry guys, those of you that believe in psychics. You know, they told the families a whole load of different stories. One psychic, about 2 years into the investigation, gave authorities a description of the car and the man who she believed accidentally struck and killed Billy, and then panicked. And she claimed that the man had buried the body near the area where he vanished. So that brought out cadaver dogs, and it's 1962, so things weren't quite as advanced then as they are now. But there was no hint of disturbed earth or anything like that. So all of these leads brought on by psychics were eventually run down and discarded. So the years eventually turned into decades. And Jill, who was 2 at the time, who has just lived her life heartbroken that she lost her big brother. During the 1980s, when obviously as an adult now, she undertook hypnosis to try to jog anything from her memory that she could recall, and she did recount some information while under hypnosis. She said that she'd been holding hands with Billy as 2 men fought in front of an oil drum fire at the Palace of Depression, which was a landmark near the family's home. She's quoted as saying, "I remember running and eventually I could see the door to my house. But the Palace of Depression, which is bizarre, but it was an attraction built from discarded materials in the local neighbourhood. It had been extensively searched because it was hypothesised that Billy could have wandered in there or could have been disposed of in that area. But no, nothing. Billy was not in that local neighbourhood. That neighbourhood was gone over with a fine-tooth comb. The woods, the swampland, the waterways, all gone over with a fine-tooth comb. And Billy was not there. Had the river washed Billy so far downstream that, it was out of the search area? That is a possibility. That is a possibility, but the Bogeyman? Why would Jill say that the Bogeyman had taken Billy? Jill described her dreams, and she said that when she dreamt about Billy, it was like that he was on the other side of a brick wall and he's calling, and she has to find a way to get to him. She still maintains that one day she will find out what happened to her big brother. Now, over the years, age-progressed images of Billy have been released to show what he'd be like as an adult. And look, 1962, he would be an old man now, wouldn't he? back in 1962, DNA analysis of crime scenes and things like that just wasn't a thing. The molecule DNA itself had only been discovered about 10 years previous. It was the 1980s and into the 1990s before DNA analysis was possible at crime scenes. As technology has advanced, information about Billy's disappearance has been entered into the National Crime Information Centre system with a DNA sample. Jill gave a DNA sample. It sits there waiting for something. That's where we are. Absolutely no answers whatsoever. A 3-year-old boy just vanished into thin air, taken by the Bogeyman. Hundreds of leads, hundreds of tips. No indication of where he went has been found, apart from baby Cake's a basset hound being wet. No arrests have been made, no sightings, nothing. Vineland Police Sergeant Patrick Doherty said, "Somebody has to know something. I really do believe that." So, amongst law enforcement, it is generally believed that he was abducted, as opposed to wandering off, but who by? All we've got to go off is the Bogeyman. And that's a really, really terrifying prospect, isn't it? So what do you think happened to little Billy Jones? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.